Shalom, shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining me once again in the study of the laws. Before going into this video, I just want to address law number 120 from the previous video, which says courts must calculate to determine when a new month begins, based on Exodus 12:2, which reads, "This month, Nisan, shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." I did put 2 asterisks next to this law, but I did not explain why. This law, too, should be changed. Reason being, Judaism claims Exodus 12:2 is commanding the courts to calculate when a new month begins. However, the command is for Nisan to be the start of months. It doesn't say anything about courts calculating months. So law number 120 is a law that has to be changed. It is the 20th law that needs to be changed in the list of 613 laws. Now we're heading into forbidden relationships, starting with a few circumstantial ones. Laws of Yibum and Chalitza. Law number 128, to do Yibum. Deuteronomy 25, verse 5 says, "If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without into a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her." According to the law, if a man dies and his brother resides with them, it is his brother's responsibility to marry his wife, if she is without child, and take on the duties of his dead brother. The firstborn son that they have takes on the name of the dead brother, and is a continuation of the dead brother's lineage. The purpose of this law is to preserve the name of the deceased man, to keep the inheritance distinct, and to keep the family name and property. Law number 129, to do Chalitza. Deuteronomy 25, verse 9, it says, "Then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off of his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, So shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house." This is an alternative to Yibum. This law tells of what happens when the man refuses to marry his deceased brother's wife, who is without child. He is shamed before his brethren with the act of her spitting on him. Law number 130, the widow must not remarry until the ties with her brother-in-law are removed. So the command is for the widow not to remarry until the ties with her brother-in-law are removed. This is according to the standard already set forth in law number 126 regarding divorce. Before that widow moves on to marry another, all ties to her brother-in-law must be removed. So the command for a brother to marry his widowed sister-in-law only applies if the brother resides in the same household. And there are still provisions in case he doesn't want to take on that responsibility, but he will be shamed for not doing so. And she can't just go on and marry another if the brother decides not to take her. Chalitza is what severs her bond to the brother before the elders of Israel. This is what breaks her ties to the brother so she can move on. Now getting into a few laws pertaining to the mistreatment of a woman. Law number 131, the court must fine one who seduces a maiden. Exodus 22, verse 16 through 17 says, "And if a man entices a maid that is not betrothed or engaged, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins." The law here is for a man to pay a fine for seducing a maiden, which is a word used to describe a young girl, an unmarried girl, or most likely a virgin. The assumption here is that the relations were not consensual, but rather this woman was violated. Law number 132 and 133, the rapist must marry the maiden if she chooses. He is not allowed to divorce her. Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 says, "If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed or engaged, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. He may not put her away all his days." Again, every action is to be held accountable. The first law is that the violator is to pay a fine to the woman's father. You will not violate a woman and walk away without some type of responsibility, accountability, or penalty. The second law is that the woman is to be his wife for life, if she chooses. Divorce is not permitted. We see here that who you choose to lay with without consent, you cannot just run away from. This is not a tag, you're it game where you can violate a woman and run. You're stuck with her for life, if she says so. So think twice. Law number 134 and 135. The slanderer must remain married to his wife. This is a continuation of the previous laws. We're talking particularly about a man who lies with a woman or violates a woman who is a virgin, but then he goes around claiming to everyone that she was not a virgin. He's basically lying about her. Deuteronomy 22, verse 19, it says, the elders obtain from the violator 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he has brought up an evil name upon her. And she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all his days. The law here is regarding a man who lies with a woman and later speaks against her, claiming she was not a virgin. If it's proven that she was a virgin, he is to pay a fine for slandering her name. That's law number 134. And be married to her all of his days for lying about her purity. That's law number 135. Now let's look at some laws that address the cheating wife. Laws of Sotah. Laws number 136 through 138 are to fulfill the laws of Sotah, not to put oil on her meal offering, and not to put frankincense on her meal offering. Numbers 5 verse 30, it says, or when the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, or he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before the Most High, and the priest shall execute upon her all this law. In other words, this is what happens when a man suspects his wife to be cheating. Law number 137 says not to put oil on her meal offering. This process can be found in Numbers 5, verse 11 through 31. An adulterous wife polluted the nation of Israel, making them all unclean. If a man has a spirit of jealousy or a suspicion that his wife has cheated, she is brought before the priest who set her before the Most High, along with her meal offering. And law number 138 says no frankincense was to be poured onto her meal, which was symbolic of drawing the Most High's attention to her potential guilt. Holy water was given to her and expected to cause a curse within her body and make her barren if she had truly cheated. It was expected to have no effect if she was innocent. The Bible calls this water bitter in reference to its potential effect on making her sterile if she had sinned. I'm going to go through these next laws rather quickly now. I previously talked about how many of the commandments being common sense laws that we naturally keep anyway in a civilized world. These are the laws of forbidden relationships, starting with law number 139 and going down a long list of relations, meaning sexual relations we should not have, according to Leviticus 18. And they are the following. Not to have relations with your mother. Off to an interesting start, right? We don't need to be told that, but it is a commandment. Your father's wife, which is your mother-in-law. Your sister. Your father's wife's daughter, which is your stepsister or your sister by marriage. Your son's daughter, which is your granddaughter. Your daughter. Your daughter's daughter, which is your granddaughter. A woman and her daughter. This is problematic. You're basically courting both the mother and the daughter at the same time. Not okay. Law number 147, a woman and her son's daughter. The granddaughter of the woman you're with. For you old men out there who think that might be okay, it's not. Law number 148, a woman and her daughter's daughter. The granddaughter of the woman you're with. Not to have relations with your father's sister. That's your aunt. Can't sleep with your aunt. Your mother's sister, who is your aunt. Your father's brother's wife, which is your aunt by marriage. Your son's wife, who is your daughter-in-law. Your brother's wife, your sister-in-law. Your wife's sister, your sister-in-law. By the way, there is an exception to law number 153, not to have relations with your sister-in-law. As we saw in law number 128 through 130, A brother-in-law residing in the home must take the wife of his deceased brother as his wife to continue his lineage. But even still, that brother has passed away now, so taking her is not really a forbidden relationship. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but these commands appear to be given to the man, right? They're all saying who a man should not be with. This is reflective of the fact that the man is traditionally the leader and the initiator. But there's also a certain level of accountability the man was to have. In other words, they were held responsible for the bed they made, so to speak. These laws were for them to choose wisely and carefully who they had relations with. Ideally, a woman would need to be responsible for the same, but there's something about when the leader makes the wrong decision. See, when the followers within a congregation make wrong decisions, it doesn't necessarily throw the ministry off course. But when the leader makes the wrong decision, a decision followers are predispositioned to follow, or likely to follow, it can kill the entire ministry. These laws are telling the man how important it is for him to be responsible sexually. It's not righteous to have 6 baby mamas, 5 of which you don't take care of, none of which you speak to. That is out of order. Seed that is planted is meant to be watered and groomed to grow. Seed is never meant to be left uncared for. This is why marriage is ordained. It's the best situation in which you can care for your seed under one household, not many. Let's continue. Law number 155. A man must not have relations with the beast. Yes, there's a law for everything, because trust, there's some idiot out there doing it. Moving on to the commandments addressing a woman's sexual behavior, finally. Law number 156, a woman must not have relations with the beast. Some women out there need to be told this as well. Not to have homosexual relations. Homosexual relations with your father. That's a son sleeping with his father. Homosexual relations with your father's brother. That's a son sleeping with his uncle. Relations with a married woman. Relations with a menstrually impure woman. So now we're getting into mixed marriages, a very controversial topic for many. So let's look at 4 laws that seem to contradict themselves. Law number 162, not to marry non-Jews. Law number 163, not to let Moabite and Ammonite males marry into the Israelite people, based on Deuteronomy 23, verse 3. It reads, an Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Most High. Even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Most High forever. So it appears we're not to marry outside of the Israelite nation. But remember, these laws were given in the wilderness, when the Israelites were in the process of being established as a nation. At that time, mixing was very much prohibited with the people of the land that they were going to overtake. We were commanded not to mix with other nations, not because they were other nations, but because they partook in other customs, paganism. Pagans and Jews don't mix, and they never will. This is why any law against mixing was given, to avoid pagan practices infiltrating the nation of the Israelites. We read in law number 164, it says, don't keep a 3rd generation Egyptian convert from marrying into the Israelite people. And it reads, the children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Most High in their 3rd generation. So now we're told it's okay to marry an Egyptian convert 3 generations later, after time has passed, after the Israelites have been established, after the anger of their ancestors who previously had enmity with them had passed. It became okay for an Egyptian convert to marry into the Israelite nation. Then we get to law number 165, and it says not to refrain from marrying a 3rd generation Edomite convert, based on the same scripture. Keep in mind, these are not just non-Israelites. They are converted non-Israelites, converting to the way of the Israelite, now allowed to marry into the nation. So we see several passages about mixed marriages. They were forbidden specifically to avoid paganism coming into the nation. If you read Ezra 10, you'll see that Ezra was very strict about marriage. He forced 113 Israelite males to divorce their pagan wives, not because they were foreign women, but because they were pagan women. Exodus 34, verse 12 through 13, And verse 15 through 16 stresses the importance of not entering into a contract with inhabitants of a land full of pagans. Marriage is a contract, a covenant. And remember, law number 56, not to make a covenant with idolaters. Same reasoning, because they will turn you away from your God. It's not about nationality. It's about paganism and pagan customs. Here's a scripture about conversion. Exodus 12:48. It says, when a stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover, let his males be circumcised or converted, and he will be as a native in the land. This means that any stranger or foreigner can walk with Israel, even in marriage, but they must truly convert to do so. So some may say, well, stranger means distant Israelite. If he were a distant Israelite, he would already be circumcised. He would be a native of the nation, just living outside of the people, but still a native. It says once converted, he will be as a native. If he were a distant Israelite, he would already be a native, just distant. So this person, this stranger, was not circumcised and was not a native. He was not an Israelite. An Israelite, even distant, is still a native, although estranged, still a native. So this foreigner or stranger was a non-native, uncircumcised, non-Israelite. Law number 166, not to let a mamzer marry into the people. Deuteronomy 23 verse 2, it says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Most High. Even till his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Most High. The law is regarding conversion. A child conceived out of wedlock or through a forbidden relationship was excluded from entering into the congregation of the Israelites. Even as an adult now, having nothing to do with his parents' decision and how they were conceived, is forbidden to marry into the nation. We're talking about the integrity of the Israelite nation being compromised by children conceived from various forbidden relationships. Fatherless children walking around lost in single-parent homes. It was never meant to be this way, Israel. And see, this law is against that child. You've caused that child's image to be tainted, and he or she had nothing to do with the decision his parents made. But at the end of the day, this law does not speak to the fault of this child, but the responsibility of that child's parents, or lack thereof. There's a lot of accountability in these laws, and some may come across as strict, but this should make us think twice about the decisions we make in life when it comes to sexual relations. How that makes us look to the Most High, how it makes the nation look as a whole, and how it affects your child. Law number 167, not to let a eunuch marry into the Israelite people. Based on Deuteronomy 23:2, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Most High, even to his 10th generation. I've placed one asterisk by this law because that is not what the scripture says in Deuteronomy 23 verse 2, which is the scripture Judaism has based this law on. This law has been added by Judaism and needs to be omitted. Law number 168, not to castrate any male, including animals. It's based on Leviticus 22 verse 24, which reads, "Ye shall not offer unto the Most High that which is bruised, or crushed, or broken, or cut. Neither shall you make any offering thereof in your land." This law is based on the instructions that no man or animal should be with blemish when they approach to make an offering or to be an offering. Law number 169, the high priest must not marry a widow. Based on Leviticus 21 verse 14, which says, "A widow, divorced woman, or profane, or a harlot, these shall he," the priest, "not take. But he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife." According to Maimonides' list of 613, the command here is that a high priest must not marry a widow. Actually, the scripture also refers to a divorced woman and a profane woman. So this is the law that must be expanded upon to fit the scripture that it's based on. The actual command is that a high priest must marry a virgin, a woman not previously married and who is not profane. Law number 170, the high priest must not have relations with the widow, even outside of marriage. Based on Leviticus 21 verse 15, which reads, "Neither shall he profane his seed among his people, for I the Most High do sanctify him." To profane seed refers to having sexual relations with one that you're not married to. So law number 169 says not to marry a widow, a divorced woman, or a profane woman. And this law says he shouldn't be sleeping with them either, even out of marriage. Law number 171, the high priest must marry a virgin maiden. Leviticus 21 verse 13 says, and he, a priest, shall take a wife in her virginity. Law number 169 says who a priest should not marry, which is a negative command. This law says who he is to marry, positive command, which is a virgin. Those were about the high priest. What about the priests? Law number 172 says a Cohen must not marry a divorcee. Based on Leviticus 21 verse 7, they, a priest, shall not take a wife that is a whore or profane, neither shall they take a woman put away from her husband, for he is holy unto the Most High. Number 173, a Cohen must not marry a Zonah, a woman who's had forbidden relations. Law number 174, a priest must not marry a Chalala, which is a product of law number 169 through 172, a high priest who has had a forbidden relation. This is based on Leviticus 21 verse 7. Law number 175, not to make pleasurable contact with any forbidden woman. Based on Leviticus 18 verse 6, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him, to uncover her nakedness. I am the Most High. We saw a long list of forbidden relations. Well, this law is dealing with what happens prior to relations, advances, flirtation, all which leads to the relations. So we've gone through a lot of laws in this video. We've reviewed 175 laws. We've seen 11 laws that need to be omitted because they were repeats or false additions, 21 laws that need to be changed to fit their scriptural reference, and 6 laws that can no longer be kept today. So although we have reviewed 175 laws so far, there are actually 164 true laws within them. That number 613 has now fallen to 602. I want to thank you guys for studying with me. Again, a tedious work, a huge undertaking, but a blessing to put forth for you guys. Thank you for watching. Until next time, Shalom.